Hello friends. In our detailed discussion on the Union Legislature, today we will be discussing the legislative procedures of the Parliament. The significance of the Parliament actually lies in its multifunctional role. Traditionally, the Parliament was just like a law-making organ of the state. But today, in the modern era, the Parliament turned out to be a multifunctional institution. However, it must be noted that the primary function of the Parliament is the law-making activity. Now, modern society is a complex one. So, laws which governs the society turns out to be complex as well. So naturally, the laws which are being made or the procedures through which the laws has been made turns out to be a complicated affair. Things even is more aggravated with the fact that with the notion of the welfare state. Now, the concept of the welfare state has not only extended the functions or the realm of activities of the state, but it has to be done at a rapid speed over the years. Here it is worthwhile for us to understand the actual working of the government. Now, in order to do so, it is essential for us to know it is essential for us to gain some of the basic knowledge about the procedures of the governmental affairs. And these procedures are laid down in the rules of procedure and the conduct of business of both the houses of the Parliament. First is the summoning of the session. Now, it is the President of India who summons the sessions of both the houses of the Parliament. Here it is to be noted that so far as summoning of the session of the two houses are concerned, the time period should not be more than 6 months in between the two sessions. Now, in actual practice, it is the Minister in charge of Parliamentary Affairs who proposes a date to both the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha and the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Then the Secretary Generals obtain the orders from the President and issue summons to the individual members. Now, in case of a newly elected Lok Sabha, so after the fresh general election, the President usually appoints the senior-most member as the pro tem speaker, who presides the conduct of the oath-taking ceremony. Now, at the very first meeting of the session, the speaker is elected in the House, followed by the deputy speaker. Now, let us see the sessions that takes place in our Parliament. Generally, there are 3 sessions in our Parliament. The first is the budget session, which usually commences in between the months of February to May. This is followed by the monsoon session, which usually takes place from the months of July to August. And the third session is the winter session, which usually happens within the months of November and December. Now let us understand what actually happens at the very beginning of a session. The session actually begins with the inaugural address by the President. The inaugural address is actually given by the President and it is meant for both the houses of the Parliament. So the members of both the houses, they assemble together at the central hall of the Parliament House and the President delivers his inaugural address. This inaugural address is actually being written and approved by the Parliament itself. The President in his inaugural address refers to the governmental activities that had taken place in the previous year. It is basically a review of the governmental activities that had taken place in the previous year and also discusses the upcoming programs and policies of the government for the ensuing years. Followed by the inaugural address, it is essential for us to know it is essential for us to know in brief the concept of quorum, adjournment and prorogation. Now, what is a quorum? Quorum actually meant the minimum number of members required to be present for the conduct of the business of the House. Now, what will happen if the House fails to reach its quorum? In such a case, the Speaker will ring the quorum bell, hearing which the members who are either in the lounge or elsewhere will rush back to the House. Now, even then, if the quorum is not reached in a House, then Speaker may adjourn the House, and in such a case, it is up to the pleasure of the Speaker to call for its next session. Now, apart from the adjournment, it is the President who may prorogue the House as well. Now, in such a case, it is the responsibility of the President to issue summon for the next session. Now, apart from these three concepts, it is essential for us to know the point of order. Point of order is that the business of the House is to be conducted keeping in mind or in pursuance with the rules as being laid down in the Constitution or the rules of procedures and conduct of business. The next point of our discussion is the questions and the supplementary questions. The first hour of every sitting is actually called the question hour. It is during the question hour that the members of each House can raise a question on a matter related with the administration of the country, or it may also be raised on an issue of national or international importance. There are three types of questions: stirred questions, unstirred questions, and short notice questions. Stirred questions are those which deserves or which demands an oral answer by the minister at the very floor of the House, and it is distinguished by an asterisk mark beside it. Unstirred questions are those which do not demand any verbal answer to the question. It is usually being done in the form of writing. So far as both the stirred and the unstirred questions are concerned, a prior notice, a prior intimation, the minimum period required for intimation for a stirred and unstirred question is for 10 days. Now, the short notice question is taken up for answer only if the Speaker gives its approval and the minister concerned is prepared an answer for it. Keeping in mind the time constraints of the Parliament, the individual member cannot raise more than 5 questions in a single day. And it includes 3 stirred questions so far as Rajya Sabha is concerned and 1 stirred question so far as Lok Sabha is concerned. Not only that, the total number of stirred questions that are meant for Lok Sabha should not exceed 20 in case of Lok Sabha, and it should not be 230. It should not exceed 230 in case of the unstirred questions meant for Lok Sabha. Now, in Rajya Sabha, there is no such limitation, but it is usually being found that the number of unstirred questions does not exceed the number of 200. Apart from questions, the members of both the houses may move motions and resolutions relating to matter of urgent public importance. Now, motions are of different types. They are namely adjournment motion, calling attention motion, no confidence motion, and censure motion. Now, what do we mean by an adjournment motion? A member may move on an adjournment motion of urgent public importance having a definite and factual basis, with a prior notice being given to the Speaker or the Minister or the Secretary General. It is usually discussed after 4 p.m. when the mover of the motion say that the House is adjourned. Now, there are three possibilities so far as the adjournment motion is concerned. First of all, a member may move the motion. The minister concerned may agree to the motion and the House takes up the motion for discussion. Secondly, the minister concerned may agree to include it for debate in the general business hour after some time. And finally, the minister concerned may oppose the motion. Now, apart from the adjournment motion, the second one is the calling attention motion. The concept of calling attention is another device which combines the asking of questions for answer with supplementary and short comments in which different points of view are expressed in a concise and precise manner. A member may, with prior permission of the speaker, may call attention of a minister on any matter of public importance. Now, this actually gives an opportunity to the members of the opposition bench to criticize the governmental activities and bring it in the forefront of the House. Now, next is the no confidence motion. Either the Prime Minister may move such a motion to express his confidence in the House, or a member from the opposition bench may move such a motion to show that the government has lost its confidence in the House. Just like the no confidence motion, the censure motion is also another such device. It is sometimes identified with the no confidence motion. In fact, both have the same effect. It contains specific charges against the government and no leave of the House is required to move. Now, along with the discussion on the motions, it is important for us to take a look at the resolutions. While the motions may not always be put to vote, all the resolutions are placed for voting. The resolutions may be moved by ministers as well as by the private members. A member who wants to move a resolution has to give notice to the Secretary General of the House, informing him of his intention of the resolution. Now, the resolution for a resolution, the approval or the desire of 3 members of the Lok Sabha is required, along with the desire of 5 members in the Rajya Sabha. Now, in case a resolution is tabled in pursuance of a provision of the Constitution or an Act of Parliament, it is called a statutory resolution. A resolution, if it is being passed, has a binding effect on the government. It may also be pointed out that the government resolution may be taken up on any day from Monday to Thursday. A private member resolution can be taken up only on Fridays, and the time of last 2.5 hours are meant for its discussion. Now, along with the resolutions, we know that the legislature is quite famous for its heated debates and discussions. One may also refer to the discussion as an important item in the list of procedures and the conduct of business of both the houses. Discussions may be of 2 types: short duration discussion and half-an-hour discussion. Now, at least 3 members of the House may demand a short duration discussion on some matters of urgent public importance. A notice to this effect should be given to the chairman or the speaker of the House, and in case it is admitted, it may be allotted 2 sittings in a week for discussion. Now, next to the short duration discussion is the half-an-hour discussion. The members of the House may also demand discussion on some matter of urgent public importance, and normally the last half an hour of the day is devoted for it. Under Rule 377, a member of the Lok Sabha may raise any important matter in the House with the permission of the Speaker. Now, legislative proposals are brought before the either houses in the form of a bill. Now, what is a bill? A bill is actually a draft of a legislative proposals. Normally, bills are of two types, ordinary bills and money bill. If a bill is passed in both the houses of the parliament, then it becomes an act. So first we will take up the concept of the ordinary bill, then we will discuss how a money bill is passed in the house. The first stage of legislation is the introduction of the bill. It embodies the provisions of the proposed law. The bill may be introduced even by a private member of the House only if he gives its intimation to the Speaker, clearly stating the intention of the bill. The introduction of every bill that is being introduced in the House is to be published in a gazette. The very introduction of the bill actually refers to a stage when the proposal or when the mover of the bill gives a general statement regarding the citing the aims and objectives of the bill. There is no debates or discussion in the very first stage. Now, at the second stage, the bill is taken up for a detailed discussion. All principles of the bill are thoroughly debated, and it is in this stage that the House are left with four options. First of all, the bill may be taken into consideration. Secondly, the bill may be referred to a select committee. Thirdly, the bill may be referred to a joint committee of both the houses. And finally, it may be circulated for the purpose of eliciting public opinion about it. Now, in case of a bill which may likely to raise controversy and debates, usually adopts the fourth alternative. While in other cases, so far as the routine affair of the bill is concerned, so far as a bill concerning the routine affairs or the bill which are of emergent in nature, all the bills which are of minor importance adopt any of the first three alternatives. Now, the select committee or joint committee is expected to give its report within a stipulated period as being mentioned. Now, the members of the select committee are expected to be the renowned persons who have expertise knowledge on that particular subject. Now, apart from the select committee, there is also a provision of the joint committee. Now, the joint committee actually needs the concurrence of both the houses of the parliament. Now, submission of the report of the committee may be taken to be the beginning of the third stage. Now, it is during this stage that the members can send their amendments to the different provisions of the bill. Now, in the third stage, on a date fixed by the Business Advisory Committee, the bill is taken up for the third reading. No discussion takes place and within a couple of minutes, this bill is passed in the House. Thereafter, the bill goes to the second House where it passes through a similar stages. Now, the second House may pass the bill with their recommendations, and the bills, once it is being passed by the second House, is placed before the first House. The members of the first House may accept those recommendations, adopt them, or it may not do so. What will happen if there is a disagreement between the two houses of the parliament? Now, in case of a deadlock situation, we find that the President may call for a joint session of both the houses. Now, there are 2 points which should be kept in view. First of all, the Lok Sabha may delay the legislation and of the passage of the bill for any length of time, but the Rajya Sabha has to pass a bill within a period of 6 months duration. Secondly, the Speaker will preside over the meeting of the joint session, and it will be decided by a majority of votes. But a joint session can be held only in the case of a non-money bill. Now, the bill is actually passed by a simple majority in a joint session. Now, a bill that is finally being passed by both the houses receives the signature of the Speaker, and then it is placed before the President for his assent. Now, here too, the President has the power to give his veto. He may not give his assent and send the bill back to the House with his recommendation. Now, in such a case, the bill will once again has to follow the stages. He may send the bill back to the Parliament, and in such a case, the bill will have to follow the entire process, bill has to follow the entire procedure for the second time. And once it is decided that the bill is being passed by both the houses for the second time, and it is passed to the President for his assent, then the President is left with no other options but to give his assent. Now, one such instance had been noted by President Jail Singh, who refused to give his assent and returned the Postal Amendment Bill for reconsideration. Now, what happens in case of a money bill? Now, so far as a money bill is concerned, there is a special procedure for it. A money bill can originate only in the Lok Sabha. A money bill originates with the prior recommendations of the President, and it is always a government bill. Article 110 defines a money bill as one dealing with the imposition, abolition, remission or alteration of any tax or regulation or borrowing of money by the government, or the payment of money into or their withdrawals from the Consolidated or the Contingency Fund of India, or declaring a new item to be charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, and the like. A money bill, like any other bill, is required to be passed by both the houses of the Parliament. Now, after it is being approved by the Lok Sabha, it has to be passed in the Rajya Sabha, which has the time duration of 14 days. So, within 14 days, the Rajya Sabha has to return the money bill to the Lok Sabha with its recommendations. Now, in case of a money bill, the Lok Sabha may accept those recommendations, or it may not accept those recommendations. Once it is passed by both the houses of the Parliament, a money bill cannot be, the President does not have his power of veto over a money bill. In other words, it implies that the President cannot withhold a money bill. It cannot send the money bill back to the Lok Sabha for reconsideration. So, a money bill, once being passed by both the houses of the Parliament, must receive the signature of the President as well. When we are discussing about a money bill, it is essential for us to have a brief knowledge about the budget. What is a budget? A budget is basically the annual financial statement of the government. Now, it has two parts, the revenue part and the expenditure part. The revenue part is covered under the finance bill, and the expenditure part is covered under the appropriation bill. Discussion on the finance bill covers matters relating to general administration. It must be passed by Parliament and assented to by the President within a period of 75 days. The expenditure side of the budget is covered by the appropriation bill. It incorporates all the demands of grants voted by the Lok Sabha along with expenditure charged on the consolidated fund. Now, discussion on this bill affords another chance to members of the parties in opposition to criticize the administration in general. To conclude, one may wonder what will happen if the government requires some extra revenues or some extra amount of money to meet the dangers or threats which are unforeseen in nature. Now, in such a case, there is a provision in the Constitution for a provision in the Constitution for a vote of account. Now, this empowers the Lok Sabha to sanction any grant in advance for a part of any financial year pending the completion of the budgetary process. Naturally, it is taken for 2 months, but it can be extended, and at the total amount is the 1/6 of the estimated expenditure for the entire year. Now, the period may be enhanced for 3 to 4 months of a year. So, here we come to an end of our discussion on the legislative procedure of the Parliament. Thank you.